All right. So for last but not least speaker, it's Danielle Ashwal. She's a product manager at Microsoft Defender for IoT. And one of the biggest, not one of the biggest, but one of the problems we have many problems in robotics, but one of the problems we have also is cyber and how to work with it and how to actually enter it in our products, especially before it becomes a real problem when we cannot deploy our robots anymore. And this is something we should think about quite ahead of the development. So Danielle, thank you.
Okay, so like this, it's okay, right? Okay. So today I'm going to discuss with you about how to secure your robots from malicious attack. My name is Danielle Ashwal, and I'm a product manager already a few years, I think more than 10 years in the security industry here in Israel, mostly. I used to work with many customers abroad, for Checkpoint, for Teammate, and today for Microsoft. And I'd like to start, but before we're starting, I'd like to ask you one question. How many people here know RTOS operation system? Okay, that's a good thing. How many of you are making sure that you're using the latest RTOS system, including all the security recommendations? Okay, so we have something to discuss about. So as you know, today, the number of unmanaged IoT and OT devices, and also part of it is the robotic devices, because many of them are smart devices. Most of the devices that we used to see on the latest years are kind of, I don't want to say stupid, but I'll say stupid. And today, most of the devices that you are seeing are much more smarter. We see devices that are building automations, they're doing things in a much more effective way. And by doing that, they're actually improving the value and also increasing the cost to all the customers that you are seeing on, I'm guessing, weekly or monthly basis. However, the growth of this kind of devices is bringing new attack surface. We see more risks that we need to tackle down to make sure that our environment is being safe, that no one can take advantage of the vulnerabilities that exist on these devices and hack our environment. So when building the IoT devices and the robotics devices, I'd like to ask you another question. How many of you are thinking about the security aspects that comes with it? What is the first thing you're thinking about? Okay. So today, from the environment and the customers that we're seeing, and mostly also, of course, in Microsoft, we see that there are actually velocity of IoT devices, robotic devices. We can see them on industrial systems. We see them on IT environments, on dedicated IoT devices. We see the agriculture devices and much more than them. But what we don't see usually is this. I'm sorry, I think it's a different presentation. Okay. Okay, so what we don't see usually is the security mindset that comes with it. Many of these devices are built with a security bot, which is not really secure. And they're not really making sure that the operation system will be up to date and are not having any vulnerabilities or can be breached. The second thing is that the vendor rarely provide automated means to patch this kind of devices. So let's say you have a customer and he has a production cell. In the production cell, there are a few RTUs, PLCs, and much more devices. However, Siemens, Schneider, or any other vendor that is pretty known in industrial environments is publishing and new vulnerabilities that are actually exist on this kind of devices, but your customer saying, if I'm going to change one of these devices, it's going to cost me a lot of money because these devices need to function. So we can't really patch them, but what we can do is to monitor these devices and to make sure that there's no internet connectivity to it, to make sure that there's no remote access that someone from outside can exploit and enter to this device. Okay. So when we're talking about the top IoT and OT challenges for CIOs and also for CISOs, we see that the IoT devices and the new robotics are pretty essential because they can bring efficiency. However, these security devices are the most less secure comparing to all the other devices. And the reason for it, they are not agent-based. It's very, very rare to see IoT devices that have agents that can be run upon them and to make sure that they are secure. So this is why they are not really managed. And the 31% of the organization would like to stop the adoption of the IoT projects due to security concerns, because they thinking that adopting this kind of solution can bring new attack surface. And this is why they less supporting in this kind of ideas. We see that there are three main actually technology gaps. The first one is that it's very hard to have a full inventory with all the IoT robotic devices. And the reason for it is that they are not managed. In order to get this kind of devices, we will need to monitor them and also to support on industrial protocols, on unrare protocols, and sometimes it's very hard to get to the location of this type of devices, like the PLCs and RTUs. The second thing is that the IoT devices are not really that secure, and this is why they feel less confident with adopting them. And 61% thinking that to identify if IoT devices are compromised will be pretty hard. So what does it mean to have a risk on the environment? It can affect the business in three main ways. The first one is the financial part. And in case we'll have malware in our environment, it can shut down factories. And in case it will shut down these factories, like the last ransomwares, WannaCry, NotPetya, LockerGaga, and much more, the business can lose money. And eventually, everything comes to cost. The second thing is the IP theft. And this one is more common on manufacturing. In case someone will have accessibility to our environment, it will be able to get the information and even sensitive formulas or any other ideas and to use it for his own profit. And the third thing is safety. Probably who here in the audience have heard about Triton attack? So I see that not all of you. So actually Triton attack it actually happened on petrochemical plant on Saudi Arabia, and someone get access between IT device to OT device, which was HMI machine, which Schneider electric products. And then he succeeded to enter to PLC of Schneider and to download configuration file and just exploit this kind, to shut down this kind of PLC. And of course that he damaged and made also financial loss to this plant. Last year, Microsoft announced on BedAlloc. Someone here in the audience ever heard about BedAlloc? Okay. So BedAlloc allows to attackers to run a malicious code through vulnerable memory function. Microsoft research team has succeeded to uncover a series of critical memory allocation vulnerabilities in IoT devices. These vulnerabilities were pretty severe, and they were involved also with a real-time operation system, RTOS embedded software, SDKs, and standard libraries. But the important thing about it is that RTOS actually affects on multiple devices, on multiple vendor, on multiple equipment. So someone that taking advantage this kind of vulnerable device can connect to it and also to configure code which shouldn't function. So the next questions probably will be, so now that we know we have BedAlloc and we know all the RTOS systems that are out there, what can we do in order to mitigate this kind of devices? So the first thing will be to patch them, have the latest software to update the version that they are including, and to make sure that they are functioning. The second thing, in case you can't really patch, because as we said, some of these devices, they are in a really sensitive environment. So what we can do is to monitor them. By monitor them, we can get all the information, the connections that associate with these devices, to understand what is the behavior of them in the network, and to make sure that no one from outside will have accessibility to these kind of devices and will take advantage this kind of vulnerabilities that we already know about. The third thing is to reduce the attack surface by actually understanding where there are devices that have internet connectivity, and to make sure that there are no connectivity from outside to these devices, because we don't want that someone from outside will connect to these devices and take advantage and started to run any operations which we don't want him to do. And the fourth thing is segmentation. Because we have all the IoT devices, robotic devices, and as you know, there are many devices which are not really defined. And the problem here is a definition. We can see IoT devices on IT environments. We can see robotic devices such as the elevators or doors on BMS systems. We can see devices like the drones that just presented here, and they're connected to many different points. So the question is, how can we get all this information to make sure that it's segmented and there's no connections with other sources? So with that, in order to allow zero trust segmentation for robotics, we have a few recommendations. The first one is verify explicitly. Implement least privileged access, assume compromise. That means that we would like to see who is going to access this device, to make sure that the engineer or any other guy that's going to access it is authorized to do so. The second thing is to apply a basic hygiene. Patch where possible. If there's a possibility to patch them. Make sure that they are updated with the latest software. And of course, even more than that, to implement multi-factor authentication. Make sure that your employees are trained and knows how to react, and to make sure that there's no breach in the security to these devices. The third thing is to implement continuous monitoring solution, NDR solution. See that you can understand the connection between these devices, what are the abnormal behaviors, what are the, if there's any, let's say, connection that shouldn't be allowed between IT station and IoT devices, that it's only from someone that is authorized to do so, to avoid any future issues. And the fourth thing, when having incident on IoT devices, send all of them to a security monitoring system to make sure that there's someone in the SOC station that investigates it, understand what is the security risk that's come with it, and knows how to react, how to proactively understand. Think about that when having these devices on sensitive environments, if someone will enter to one of the devices that you'll sell to your customers and just use it in order to hack and to spread any ransomware to other devices, these devices, this environment won't function anymore. And if that cause, it can bring to a really large financial cost, which we prefer not to have. So I think I have some more time. I think it's the last one, the second, yeah. Okay, any questions? Okay, thanks. Madam?
There's one question here.
Like in general, all of these things require a lot of knowledge, like how networks work, interact with one another, and like you need proper security teams to handle this. I doubt a lot of companies that like have many IoTs or OTs actually wanted this. Like obviously there's a business aspect here that's like relevant, but this is like a really niche part of really big like world.
I definitely agree with you, and this is why here in Microsoft, we see all the IoT and OT incidents as part of Sentinel. Sentinel is the SIEM tool where we're investigating all the alerts and incidents that's coming from OT and IoT, and also from the IT space, the cloud, and it's allowing us to collaborate between all the different attacks and incidents that happen over the organization, and to see what were the kill chain, where the ransomware have passed in the first time, what were the most malicious devices that were infected. So this is why it's very important, not only, like you mentioned, to support the alerts and incidents on this device, but also to share them with a SIEM system and a SOAR system to make sure that there are playbooks that's going to evaluate them and assess, and assess what is the risk that associate with them.
Thank you very much. Thank you.